Hi everyone, my name is Megan and today I'm going to talk about the books that I plan to read in March. Every month I'm planning to challenge myself and base a TBR around that challenge. For February, I read books that I definitely should have read by now. This month, I decided that I really wanted to read the books that have been sitting on my shelves unread the longest. So I went through all of my books and I picked the ones that I thought had been there the very longest. I'm pretty ashamed about how long some of these have been on my shelves, so I think it is about time that I finally read them. The first book that I plan to read this month is The Brief Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. I actually acquired this book because I was assigned it for one of my literature courses in college. And for some reason, we just never got around to reading it in the class. I don't really know what happened with that. But I decided to go ahead and keep the copy that I already bought because it was a book that I was genuinely interested in reading, even outside of class. I graduated from college 6 years ago, and I think I bought this book for a class my senior year, but it might have been my junior year. But regardless, this book has been sitting unread on my shelves for at least 6 years, and that's just rude, honestly. This book is about a Dominican man named Oscar who seems to just have a lot of bad luck. He has big dreams of becoming a writer and finding love and settling down with someone, but unfortunately, it's not just him that has luck. There seems to be a curse on his family because all of his family members have had really bad luck in their lives too. So I think this book just explores both Oscar's story and some of his family background as well. I tend to find books that deal with curses to be really interesting, so that's very exciting to me. Also, this book won the Pulitzer Prize, and I know quite a few people who have read this one and loved it, so I'm really hoping that I love it too. The next book that I decided to read for this challenge is, I believe, the book that's been sitting on my shelves unread the longest, and that is Liss's Story by Stephen King. I think one of the reasons why this book has been on my shelf so long is that it is just pretty big and intimidating. Though I've read a couple of really big Stephen King books in the past few months and they were super quick reads, so I'm hoping this one will be too. I actually specifically picked up this title because it is my best friend's favorite book. My best friend loves Stephen King, and this is her favorite Stephen King book. It's also a book that I don't hear talked about very often, so I'm excited to read it and see what I think. All I really know about this one is it's about a wife who is widowed, and her husband was a best-selling novelist. It's a Stephen King book, so of course he was. And I guess the details surrounding his death are really mysterious, and it seems like his death was somehow related to the world that he had been creating for his books. So it follows his wife trying to piece things together and figure out what really happened to her husband. It sounds really cool, and I've been on a mission to find a Stephen King book that I love. Like I said in one of my very first videos, I have been waiting to find a Stephen King book that I absolutely love. So I'm really hoping that Liss's Story will be my new favorite Stephen King book. The next book that has been sitting on my shelves unread for the longest time is Golden Boy by Abigail Hartland. I remember buying this book right when I started library school, and I remember being so excited to read it when I first got it, but I think this was a time where I got like a ton of books at once, and this one just got put on the back burner until I kind of forgot about it, until I was looking at my shelves to find books for this video. But now I'm really excited to read this one again, so isn't that exciting? All I really know about this one is that it's about a intersex character named Max who is perceived to be the golden boy of the family. I love myself a good coming of age story, and that sounds like what this is. I also have never read a book with an intersex main character, so I am so interested to read this one. The next book I plan to read in March is Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott. This book was published in 2014, and I remember hearing so much about it when it was first published. It got so much buzz both on BookTube, and I feel like in real life I heard multiple people talk about this one, and I bought it, but I just never got around to reading it. All I remember is one single word, and that is Pokemon. This book is supposed to have some similarities to Pokemon, and I love Pokemon, so that is very exciting. This book follows Tella, whose family is really going through a hard time because Tella's brother is really sick and the doctors can't figure out what to do to cure him. But then one day, Tella gets an answer to this problem, and that is to participate in the Brimstone Bleed. This is kind of a competition that's a race among all different types of terrain, And I believe they have some type of companion, which is where the Pokemon similarities come along. This just sounds like a lot of fun. It sounds like a classic YA fantasy dystopian plot, and I haven't read one of those in a very long time. I think it will be interesting to see how this book holds up 6 years after it was first published. I feel like expectations for YA are at an all-time high, so I'm curious to just kind of see how YA writing has changed even over the past 5 years alone. I'm really looking forward to reading this one. It's really short too, so I think this one will be a really quick and fun read. Next up is a YA fantasy, and that is Finnegan of the Rock by Melina Marchetta. This is another one that I remember hearing a lot of positive buzz about way back in the day on BookTube. I think I remember buying this on clearance or maybe at Half Price Books or something, and being really excited to find a copy, but then just kind of forgetting about it, as one does. It follows Finnegan and his guardian as they head home for the first time in 10 years since the royal family had been murdered and a curse had been placed upon the kingdom. Finnegan ends up meeting a woman who claims that she knows the heir of the kingdom is still alive and knows where he is. So it follows the three of them as they find the heir to the kingdom and return home. I used to read YA fantasy and fantasy in general all the time. I feel like fantasy has really taken a back burner in my reading life lately, and I definitely want to change that because I really love a good fantasy. This is a trilogy that has all the books released, which is the perfect kind of series for me. So if I love it, I have 2 more books in the series to read, and if I hate it, I'll just pretend it never happened. The last book that I picked for my March reading challenge is Broken Girls by Lauren Bewkes. This is about a town that is experiencing a serial killer that is presenting their victims' bodies in super weird and really disturbing ways. Basically, I think this book just pieces together the mystery and is told in many different perspectives, so we get to see how the whole town is reacting to the news. So we get to see how many different members of the town are reacting and coping with things. I love thrillers with multiple perspectives, and I love seeing how events affect people differently. This sounds like a really, really creepy mystery, and I love creepy mysteries, so this one seems like it's going to be right up my alley. Alright, so those are all the books that I'm going to read for my monthly challenge. I will talk about my feelings on these books as well as all of the other books that I read in March in my March wrap-up. Thank you guys so much for watching today. In the description below, you will find links to all the books that I mentioned in today's video, as well as a link to my Goodreads page. You can also follow my Bookstagram, which is at Megan Likes Books, and my Twitter, which is at Meg Likes Books. Thanks again, everyone. I will see you guys very soon for another video. Bye-bye.